Good morning and have a nice Sunday. I hope everybody is having a good day this today. I know people usually wake up late on a Sunday morning. So let me introduce myself. I am a consultant dermatologist based in Whitefield, Bangalore. I completed my MBBS from JJM Medical College in 2004 and I MD from Kasturba Medical College, Manipal in 2008. Subsequently, I went on to complete my diplomate from the American Board of Laser Surgery in 2014. I am the first Indian to do so, and I think there are only less than 5 people in India who are board certified by the ABLS. My clinic here in Whitefield is called Skin Health Advanced Dermatology Center, and I have sought to create excellence for both medical as well as aesthetic dermatology. In medical dermatology, we do a lot of stuff. The include chamber phototherapy, targeted phototherapy, facilities for skin biopsy, allergy patch testing, cryotherapy. In aesthetic dermatology, we of course do the regular chemical peels and mold removals. We also do PRP treatments for skin and hair. Of lasers actually. I have the hair mole laser known as the Soprano Platinum laser. So, that's a new kid on the block. If you're looking for any laser hair removal now, you should be looking for triple wavelength, not just the diode laser. It has the Nd:YAG diode and the Alexandrite laser. And for pigmentation, we have 3 different kinds of lasers. The IPL laser, I have the Alma Clearlift 4D Q-switch Nd:YAG laser, and the Alma Pico Clear laser. So we are the first installation in India for the Alma Pico laser, and in this we join an elite group of dermatologists, probably 10 or so dermatologists in India who own a Pico laser. We have 4 different kinds of lasers for acne scars and all different kinds of scars, surgical scars, stretch marks, traumatic scars, acid burns, you name it. So we have the erbium YAG laser. It's a pixel laser by Alma. We have the carbon dioxide laser fractionated mode. We have the microneedling RF radiofrequency laser and also the pico fractionated pico laser for scar treatments. And we have, of course, I do Botox and fillers as well. So now let's see, while we're waiting for people to jump in, I will try starting maybe with some queries that you had already sent earlier to me. Now, there's a bunch of queries here, but I'll start with, I think, the fact to know fairness. Everybody in India wants to lighten their skin. They want to know, is there any way of doing that? Can permanent skin whitening be achieved without any side effects? See, first of all, I think most ethical and honest dermatologists will tell you that in the first place, and neither is there any safe, ethical, or honest way of bleaching your skin. So when people are talking about whitening, you're actually asking if I can bleach my skin. Now, if there is any kind of a tan which is developed with time, with sun exposure, with after a sunburn, or if you have pigmentation issues, that is something we can help you with. And having said that, there are some pigmentation issues which can be addressed and treated, and there are certain other pigmentation issues which may be very hard to treat. But original, your genetic or your, there's no way to whiten that. Bleaching creams, they usually contain anything from hydroquinone to lead to mercury. These are all, and steroids, that's the worst thing to use on your skin. So for some time, but you will slowly start seeing the side effects of it. It is ultimately going to eat into your skin, leaving it too raw, too sensitive, and too damaged. And that kind of damage, it takes several months sometimes for us to fix it for you. So that's one question that keeps coming, and annoying question now to speak to or address about that. What do we do about whitening, and how can I whiten my skin? And the usual questions are movie stars, and how come they look whiter on camera and they were not so fair before? So see, camera tricks, and I look a lot better on screen right now because I'm photogenic, and this is not how I always look. This is not how I looked waking up in the morning. So whitening, I think you should really put that aside. And I think if your skin self-esteem is damaged somewhere, you can try to whiten your skin. We're not always sure if it is going to help with your self-esteem. So you need to work on that. That is something that nobody can gift you. You either have it or you don't, but you can cultivate it gradually with time. Now, among the other queries, yeah, I keep getting questions on cosmeceuticals and nutraceuticals. So nutraceuticals are basically nutritional supplements, or edible cosmetics as people call it. So is there something I can take internally, orally, as a supplement to help my skin or my hair? That's actually a good question. There are quite a lot of these edible cosmetics. Antioxidants are the most popular. So grapeseed oil, vitamins like biotin, minerals like zinc, selenium, and there are certain antioxidants, high dose vitamin C, zinc, glutathione that can help internal sunscreens, because nutrition is also a very important part of healthy skin and hair. All right. Now, I think we got our first question. Yeah, Mr. Vikas Singh is asking, से बढ़िया बता दीजिए प्लीज. ठीक है, तीन बहुत बेसिक चीजें आपने हिंदी में पूछ रहे हैं तो मैं हिंदी में ही जवाब दूंगी. तीन चीजें हैं जो जिसकी हर किसी की जरूरत पड़ेगी, और आप साल की उम्र से ही आप शुरू करें तो और अच्छा है. सो जो सबसे बेसिक चीजें हैं वो है एक फेस वॉश, एक सनस्क्रीन और एक मॉइस्चराइजर. ये जो चीजें आप लगाएंगे अपनी स्किन के ऊपर, सनस्क्रीन में भी फार्मेसी बना हुआ सनस्क्रीन वो ज्यादा बढ़िया बेहतर करता है. जो आप सुपरमार्केट से खरीदते हैं इसमें लिखा जाता है SPF 80, SPF 100, वो सनस्क्रीन उतना बढ़िया नहीं है जितना एक कॉस्मेटिक्यूटिकल सनस्क्रीन. मॉइस्चराइजर में भी हर कोई देखना चाहता है कि कोई खुशबू वाली क्रीम, मीठी सी खुशबू हो उसमें, लेकिन स्किन डॉक्टर्स जो भी हम देते हैं बिना किसी क्रीम देते हैं, पैराबेन फ्री देते हैं, हाइपो एलर्जेनिक देते हैं. ये है कि कई लोगों को लगता है कि मेरी तो चिपचिपी तेल भरा स्किन है, मुहासे आते हैं, मॉइस्चराइजर की जरूरत है. हाँ बिल्कुल, मॉइस्चराइजर की जरूरत हर किसी को होती है, वरना आपकी उम्र वक्त से पहले बूढ़ी लगने लगेगी. बट अगर आपकी ऑयली स्किन है तो आपको वाटर बेस्ड या जेल बेस्ड मॉइस्चराइजर की जरूरत है. ये तीन बेसिक्स के साथ आप स्टार्ट करें अगर आप ऑलरेडी नहीं कर रहे हैं तो. नाउ okay, Rusha Nayak is asking, hi, I've been staying indoors during the lockdown and haven't been using a sunscreen. Is that okay? Honestly, whether it's a very sunny area, it depends on your home. There are some, independent homes and bungalows which get a lot of natural sunlight, a lot of large windows. And if you have a pigmentation, very sunny. Lockdown started in summer, and if you have pigmentation issues, you should be using a sunscreen at least for the face. All right. So, and people I think don't often realize that radiation damage is not just ultraviolet damage. There's also damage that you get from these kind of overhead lights. That's all infrared radiation. The radiation that comes from lights, that comes from lamps, that comes from laptop screens, that even comes from the stove if you've been cooking in the kitchen. So that infrared radiation can also cause a lot of. There are sunscreens where you can see the labeling. It says that it protects against infrared radiation as well. In front of a screen a lot. If you're a homemaker and you've been in the kitchen a lot, I think you should still use a sunscreen. It'll do you good. Okay. So now let's see. So I will go to another question that I had received previously. Yeah, you're welcome, Mr. Vikas. Okay. Something about a teenager who was asked that, all right, we go to Mr. Amit Dadwal. Tell me about tan. I think refer to any kind of a pigmentation as a tan. That my skin is very tanned, I need something. And we get these kind of email queries and website queries that I have a tan. See, pigmentation is a very broad area. We have chapters written on pigmentation. We have a whole set of treatments and line of treatment for pigmentation. So I think first and foremost, dermatologist to judge whether do you really have a tan, because when we dig into it, a lot of people say I hardly go out in the sun. I've been mostly indoors. I was in the sun a lot when I was younger and my skin wasn't so pigmented. So because of the stuff that you're using, maybe you're using poor quality fragranced creams which is not suiting your skin. It could be an illness. So if there are hormonal imbalances, if you're overweight, it could be just a result of what's happening inside your skin. It could be because of fragrances. It could be because of sun damage. It could be because of certain medications that you're taking. So 20 different diagnoses under pigmentation, assuming you're asking about pigmentation for face, that alone. So I think idea to first meet a dermatologist to figure out if this is just really a tan. If the covered part of your body is significantly lighter than the exposed part of your body. On the other hand, if you have areas of your face which are darker, which are pigmented, or your face looks dark but your neck looks fairer, so that cannot be the sun. That's because of weight gain and hormonal changes. Smoking, inadequate sleep, poor lifestyle can also spoil the color of your skin or make your skin look very dull. If you have a thyroid, if you're anemic, if you have B12 deficiencies, also cause very peculiar looking tans. It can even make your lips look dark if you have a B12 or an iron deficiency. So once you met a dermatologist, I think the very basic to start with would be a sunscreen. So if you're ready or right now to meet a dermatologist, I think the very least start using a sunscreen. Like I said, a pharmaceutical sunscreen rather than a cosmetic sunscreen. That will start doing you good. And in the long run, sunscreens are not just for, removal or protection from sun damage. Most of the Indian skin type is because of sun damage that has cumulatively occurred over the year. So over the years. So in the long run, if you start using a sunscreen from your teenage years itself, that's something you will start appreciating the benefit of it probably by the time you're in your 30s or 40s. You'll see that compared to your parents who never used a sunscreen and how their skin was looking in their 30s and 40s, your skin is looking much better just from a sunscreen. Okay. So what else? Now, yes, so I was talking previously about someone who says I'm 19 years old and I don't apply a lot of good. And should I start with a skincare routine? Yes, of course, you should start with a skincare routine. If you have really bad and damaged skin, no amount of makeup is going to be able to cover that. In fact, the more makeup you use is probably going to damage your skin more and more. Well, good skincare routine should start. Actually, even babies, everybody from these requires a good cleanser to clean their skin and a good moisturizer. And beyond that, now if you have acne prone skin, you need to use face washes that contain antibacterial elements in it, lactic acid if you have a little more dry skin with an acne tendency. So the cleanser also, if you have problematic skin, it's very important what kind of cleanser you use. If you need a sunscreen, you need to use a matte finish or a powder finish sunscreen that contains silicone polymers, so it just glides on your skin. It doesn't stick to your skin, it doesn't clog your pores, it doesn't cause any blackhead and whiteheads. And moisturizers. So I practice in South India, but in Bangalore it's dry air throughout the year. I'm originally from Kerala, so that's a place where there's a lot of humidity throughout the year. So you have to tailor your moisturizer according to that. Care routine may change according to your age as well. What worked for you when you were a teenager, by the time you're in your late 20s and late 30s, you may feel like now this is dehydrating my skin too much, or it's not working for me, I'm getting lines and wrinkles. So for a 19-year-old, I think you have to get to the basics. It's a good idea. If you have acne skin, there are a lot of creams that contains ingredients called AHA and BHA, alpha hydroxy acid and beta hydroxy acid, which on its own, the cream itself can bring about some exfoliation in your skin. And a scrub, for instance, if you need to use it, I would say more than enough. Do not use scrubs every day. You don't need that much of exfoliation. That's friction you apply on your skin, the more pigmentation you may start seeing. Do not, of course, use any kind of a loofah on your face. I see that a lot in cosmetic stores and facial loofahs. I think a mild, soft scrub which you're using once in 4 or 5 days is more than enough. And toner, that's another question a lot of teenagers ask. What about a toner? And I have pores. See, usually I find I almost have not prescribed a toner for many years now. It unnecessarily irritates the skin a lot. So you don't need that kind of a zip in your skin. It doesn't necessarily mean that if you feel tingling and irritation in your skin, only then what you're using is working well for you. Okay, so let's see. Another favorite, I mean, among the stuff that we see, pigmentation, hair fall, and acne. These are the three most common questions and queries that we get. So I have spoken a bit on pigmentation. I'll go to acne now. So acne, one very common thing I'm seeing over the years is everybody feeling that this is just pimples. I just have a few pimple problem. Why is no doctor able to just fix it once and for all? I've gone to so many doctors. I've tried so many creams. They all help. It works, but it tends to come back again. here is a lot of counseling. See, acne, you have to think as a lifestyle disorder like polycystic ovaries or like diabetes. It can never be a face wash to clear up your acne and ensure that you don't get acne ever again. So acne, it is sometimes hereditary. At least half the people we see with a pimple problem, one of the parents may have had it or their siblings may have had an acne problem, of course. And it is also controlled by your hormones. Now, having said that, it doesn't mean that everybody who has a pimple problem has a hormone tested, they should meet a gynecologist or an endocrinologist. No, what we mean to say is that your oil glands are very sensitive to, hormone fluctuations of teenage years or hormone fluctuations that you see during your menstrual cycle. So if you're not getting regular periods, if you've been putting on weight for no apparent reason, if you're developing facial hair, or you should get yourself checked for hormonal imbalances. But beyond that as well, hormonal fluctuations can happen because of stress, because of lack of sleep, because of sedentary lifestyle, no exercise, weight gain, junk food, constipation. A lot of things come together and cause acne. So you have to, I see Mr. Kartikeya Rao also has a similar sort of a question about having a lot of breakouts during this time and any suggestion to this is not a forum to discuss treatments, of course, but like I was saying, you need to get your lifestyle in order as well. Doing this night shift job, it is not natural. The sleeping at night, staying awake at night and sleeping in the day is not natural rhythm for our body. During the lockdown, a lot of people, their workout routine went for a toss as well, and that is when you work out regularly, eat on time, sleep on time, have plenty of water, cut out sugar from your diet as much as you can. Honey is okay, jaggery is okay if you're having a craving for something sweet, but sugar and dairy products. So teenagers, we can't tell them to go off dairy altogether, but I would say that yogurt and buttermilk, good. It's not going to cause much problem most of the time. But the condensed form of dairy, if you have the butter, the ghee, cheese, ice cream, typically junk food, you have to cut down on that as well. You need to use the right skincare. So one is a hormonal balance. The second is about your nutrition and your diet and the right kind of a skincare as well. So for male patients, I would say, salicylic acid is a good kind of a face wash to use. I would still say don't use soap on your face. If you have acne, there are acne control soaps which if you're getting acne on the chest or back. But salicylic acid containing face wash, sunscreens you will still need because otherwise acne tends to leave a lot of blemishes on the skin. Don't pinch or pop your acne. There are moisturizers that are gel-based moisturizers. Some of them even have ingredients to control acne. Your dermatologist can guide medicated creams as well. The worst thing you can do is to go to a pharmacy and pick up some cream, recommended by the chemist or by a homeopath, or, a lot of girls ask their beauty parlor aunties, what should I be using for my acne? Do not use stuff like Betnovate and Skin Light and Skin. Every cream that ends with LITE, light, or BRIT, it may temporarily reduce your acne and brighten your skin, but the longer you use it, is going to cause severe damage and is very addictive. You realize that the cream is spoiling your skin, but every time you try to go off it. So when in doubt, consult with a dermatologist. Most dermatologists will have a website or have a Facebook page where there's a lot of information they give on commonly asked queries like this about acne, about hair. So I think I hope I've given a broad outline to take care of. All right. Among home remedies, if that is something you've been looking for, there are ingredients like sandalwood, tea tree oil, which can help with acne. But be very careful with tea tree oil. If you have dry, sensitive skin, it can sometimes be too irritant. All right. Pal asks about pigmentation. So yeah, I think you're joining in a bit late. So I was speaking a lot about pigmentation. I think about the age of 25, I guess, not just because I'm working in South India. I mean, this is a metropolitan. We see people from across all sectors in India. I think all men and women over the age of 25 have at least some sort of a pigmentation on their freckles. It could be uneven skin tone. It could be undry dark circles. It could be blemishes left by old acne. So common thing. If you look for it, you'll find pigmentation in every face. And I think to some extent it's because we are in a tropical country, so sun damage is To some extent, it is also because a lot of our people don't take care of their skin at all. They just wash their face and they say, that's it. Once in a while, when I'm going out somewhere, I will use a cream or a moisturizer. Bad idea. Skincare is a lifetime commitment. It is something that you need find to a time. You need to find time for basis. And I think the other issue why pigmentation is very common is also because of use of very poor quality or cheap quality creams. Creams which are unlabeled are the worst, I would say, where you don't even find any labeling ingredients in it. Creams that have a lot of fragrances, creams that have parabens in it. You don't realize it immediately, but after using it for 5 or 6 years, you start seeing the damage on your skin. And the damage is in the form of pigmentation. Again, bad habits, smoking, too much of time in front of a screen, drinking, late night, not getting enough sleep. These habits can also ruin your skin. Sometimes it would be about hormonal issues as well. For instance, women post pregnancy, nobody's skin is like it was before. A lot of women come and say, the first pregnancy, okay, after the second pregnancy, my skin is completely changed. I don't look like before. I've aged. It is whatever I do is not working anymore. So powerful as well. So I think everybody after the age of 30, along with their regular face wash, sunscreen, and moisturizer, they will eventually need to use some kind of a serums. Serums are highly concentrated. It's usually based on nanotechnology. They penetrate far creams and they're completely pure and concentrated. For instance, if you were to buy a vitamin C containing sunscreen or something, the actual vitamin C in it, a concentration in it in a whole tube of 30 or 50 grams. On the other hand, if you buy a vitamin C containing serum, it's pure vitamin C and it absorbs much better. So one of my most favorite ingredients for people who are starting to see pigmentation or who say that I cannot avoid being out in the sun, that's part of my job, that's part of my life. I think vitamin C is something that anybody can use, which are safe to use even in the daytime. And that is something that you should start using from your 30s or even earlier if you're going to be out in the sun. Another thing is under eye. Under eye pigmentation can be really hard to treat. It can be very frustrating for the dermatologist and the patient. And it's something that will get worse with time. So a lot of people who have realized that, actually now that I think of it, my parents have dark circles as well. And when they look at old pictures, even as teenagers, they see a little bit of a darkening was already there. So that again, after time, you will start needing to use an under eye cream. Issue is pigmentation under the eye or the fact that the skin under your eyes is very thin, it is forming lines and wrinkles. There are different creams according to that, but that becomes part of your skincare routine as well. So that's about pigmentation. Now let's see. Now, yeah. Okay, another query I'm getting a lot. These glutathione. I think there's been a lot of interest in the last couple of years. I think the movie stars suddenly looking like the skin is looking a lot more lighter, and are they using glutathione? And see, glutathione, it comes in creams sometimes. Glutathione sometimes it comes in oral form, and then it comes in an injectable form. If it is to work at all, I think the injectable form is the most effective form of glutathione, the creams being the least effective form. Even in the oral glutathione, the ones that come as lozenges or the ones that come as sprays that you spray under your tongue, they are much more effective. The glutathione has its limitations. You're not going to get 5 shades lighter with glutathione, and it depends on your. So somebody with a medium skin tone will probably need to be on glutathione for about 3 or 4 months to start seeing some improvement in their skin tone. And glutathione alone will not replace the need for a sunscreen and pigmentation creams if you have deeper pigmentation. And if you have a very dark skin tone, glutathione you'll have to probably take in high doses for about 6 to 9 months or a year to start seeing the improvement. So not everyone has the motivation for that because glutathione is a fairly expensive molecule. Fairly safe. I mean, there have been side effects reported. It's not very common, but glutathione alone is not a replacement for skincare, and you have to be realistic. It doesn't take care of pigmentation disorders. This is only for just a tan to lighten a. Is it going to change my original skin color? No. No, the color your parents had, that's going to be your skin color, and that's not going to make it. If you've tanned after a vacation or a holiday or a work stint, it may help you a little bit in clearing up the tan. Why I think a lot of people are interested in glutathione is because, it gives systemic drug. So we are looking for something that can lighten your skin tone across your body and not just applying creams on the face. Okay. All right. Now, Poonam again has a question on a serum to cure pigmentation, and my skin is oily. All right. See, I'm not allowed to take brand names here because kind of a thing, but I can give you a few clues. When you go to a pharmacy, look for serums that contain ingredients like glycolic acid, that contain ingredients like azelaic acid, the ingredients that will work well for pigmented, oily, and I'm assuming maybe acne prone skin. If you have acne, sometimes vitamin C containing serums can be a problem. So vitamin C doesn't cause pimples per se, but it causes a lot of teeny eruptions in some people. Sometimes it's temporary. It happens when you're just using it for the first time, and as you continue using it, your skin may start getting adjusted to it. But if you have oily and acne prone skin, I think you should be looking for serums that contain these kind of acids, glycolic acid, salicylic acid, kojic acid, arbutin. These ingredients are usually safe for long-term use. People get scared of the word acid in it. For simple acetic acid. So, these are fruit acids, fruit enzymes, which generally come from either fruits or vegetables. They're safe for long-term use. So don't be put off by the word acid that you find in serums. Again, the clue here is it should be fragrance-free. If it's highly fragrance, it starts getting interested in I've heard a lot about so-and-so essential oil. What about rosehip oil? What about frankincense oils? It works for people who don't have sensitive skin or don't have eczema-prone skin. But if it tends to start itching easily with certain creams, if it tends to tingle in the sun, essential oils may actually end up making it worse. There's certain essential oils like lavender and lemon, citronella. These essential oils, you cannot use it in the daytime. And a lot of you apply this and you go out in the sun, and the essential oils forms a chemical reaction with the sun and it can tan your skin even more. Okay. So, all right, you're welcome, Poonam. So I hope that question has been answered. See, what are the other common questions that I get? Hair is another very common query. Almost every woman feels that I'm having hair fall. My hair is very bad. Almost everybody in every city I meet tells me the water is very bad. See, the thing is, I think sometimes people don't understand that men or women, and often even for children, this rule is true depending on the length of your hair. If you have short hair, losing up to 50 hair a day is considered normal. And if you have really long hair, then you'll. I'm live again. Yes. So using if you have really long hair, so you can actually see it well when it's falling all over the place. Losing up to 100 hair a day is considered normal. All right. So that is one thing that you need to keep in mind. Secondly, metropolitan cities, everywhere the water is bad. You don't get clean water unless you're staying in some suburban area or maybe in a rural area. So water and plays a limited role. Bad water can make your hair dry. It can make it frizzy. It can cause split ends. It can make your scalp itchy. But hair fall from the roots, thinning of hair over a period of time, that cannot be with water. That's again, it's very complicated. There are multiple things that we need to keep asking patients. Have you started losing hair, few months after a really bad illness? You had dengue or typhoid and malaria, even COVID. You don't have much problem during the illness, but then 2 or 3 months after the illness, when your body is in recovery, your hair goes into shock and you start losing a lot of hair. It can happen few months after delivery, any major surgery, blood loss, crash dieting. If you've been trying desperately to lose weight and you've been working out really hard, you've gone on a very severe diet, if you've lost 10 kgs in 2 or 3 months, you will start losing your hair as well. And when you see people with a combination of, someone who's overweight, having hair thinning, acne on the face, especially women where the hair is getting thinner, the facial hair is getting thicker, irregular cycles, then we have to rule out a hormonal issue as well. So usually any kind of a hair fall that's gone on for more than 6 months, we generally get some tests done. And there's a lot of resistance. Patients, we need to get these tests done. I got something done the last time I had a fever. See, there's a reason behind it. Good skin and good hair is often a reflection of what's happening inside your body. And if you're just treating it externally and without figuring out what's happening inside your body, it may not really work. So drugs, medications as well. A lot of people who are on blood pressure medication, for instance, that can also cause hair fall sometimes. So chemical treatments is another culprit. If you have dark hair and if you're coloring your hair closer to the browns and dark browns, it may not do much damage, especially if you're doing it once every few months. But if you're going the and the bronze and the copper and the blondes, that is a bleaching process and that can be damaging to your hair. If you're coloring as well as straightening and you're doing the chemical straightening, you're doing the flat iron, that is going to do a lot of damage to your hair. Do not even attempt it if you have really thick, strong hair to begin with. And if you're doing those kind of chemical treatments because your job or some, whatever it requires you to do that to look a certain way, then don't do it unless you also have the time and the money to invest in a good conditioner and hair spa treatments. Deep conditioning always helps. That's another misconception a lot of people have, that I don't use a conditioner because I feel it makes my hair fall out even more. Are never meant to be applied to your scalp. Then it may loosen out your roots a little bit. Apply it from mid-length to the root tips of your hair, and that will really soften your hair. And basically, conditioner and oil does the same job. That's what oils do as well. They condition your hair, they keep it soft, they keep it shiny, they prevent tangling, they prevent splitting. After shampoo, any shampoo will have some amount of detergent. The dryness which is there, a good conditioner can help in. Other than that, a shampoo is not going to do much in making hair fall better or worse. We do prescribe a lot of caffeine-based shampoo, but a shampoo on its own cannot really control hair fall. Because basically the caffeine, it improves the circulation in your scalp, and scalp is really thick skin. It's one of the thickest skin in the body, so it opens up the pores of your scalp so that the medications that we prescribe will penetrate a little better. So hair is another very common query. What about water? I think it's the water here that's damaging my hair. Could it be pollution that's damaging my hair? What kind of food should I be taking for good hair? I think nutrition plays a very important role for good hair. And when it comes to nutrition, there are a couple of things. One is protein, which I think even if you're vegetarian, if you're careful and balancing out your diet, having enough of pulses, having some cheese, you will get enough protein in your diet. Then it comes to iron, and iron deficiency can be very problematic in women, especially menstruating women. So if you're a vegetarian, you could be every day having beetroot pomegranate juice. Add any form of vitamin C in it, whether you want to add amla in it, whether you want to add musambi or orange in it. The vitamin C will help faster absorption of the iron in your stomach. And figs, rich in iron. If you're a non-vegetarian, of course, red meat is good in iron, and organ meat is probably has more iron than just chicken or fish or something like that. So iron is the next thing you have to be careful about. And then, of course, there are the micro minerals and the amino acids, the zinc, the biotin, the selenium, the copper. That is sometimes a little difficult to get it completely from diet alone. Supplements can help. All right. So let's see. Now, there are some other questions about a lot of questions that come also about collagen. So I glutathione, I think they're originating from people's interest in something that's more natural. I think sometimes people get scared of using things on their face that is chemical hair. So is there something natural? Is there some supplement that I can take? People don't realize that collagen is a very broad term. And typically collagen was given, for for muscle building for athletes who are working out a lot. It's very common for them to have muscle injury and cartilage injury, and collagen was actually advised for them. If you're looking for collagen supplements for skin and hair, it cannot be bovine collagen. It has to be marine collagen coming from fish bones, and in that collagen, then the collagen absorbs better in your system. So another thing to keep in mind is marine collagen with vitamin C. They're really expensive. So most good companies, a box will cost about 2,000 to 3,000 rupees, and it has maybe like 20 or 30 servings in it. So keep in mind that this is not for everyone. Take collagen supplements like any supplements from 3 to 6 months to start seeing an improvement in your skin or your hair. It is not a replacement for your routine skincare. So the routine skincare has to continue. You use a sunscreen because you feel it has chemicals in it, and then you take only collagen, that would not work at all. So as of now, there's just some evidence that it could be helpful for skin and hair, but I think most dermatologists are a little hesitant to put their weight or their name, because for the amount of money that you spend, you may not see that much of a change very quickly. Okay, that's that. And what are the other common queries we get? I think there are queries also during the lockdown where a lot of people could not go out and buy their favorite products or order in their favorite that we can do from home that can help our skin. Home, again, like I previously mentioned, just because something is herbal or something is a home remedy doesn't necessarily mean it's completely safe. I've seen a lot of people applying garlic on their acne and severely burning their skin. I've seen bad burns even with tea tree oil. And although it is rare, there are people who are allergic to aloe vera as well. So first of all, just because it's home remedy, just because it's herbal or it's all natural doesn't necessarily and doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to suit your skin. Now, if you have dry skin, if you have reddish skin, then you need to look for ingredients like milk cream, like oatmeal, honey, ingredients, aloe vera, for instance. Honey, again, we're not talking the normal or tea or oatmeal. Manuka honey, the brown watery honey, is actually the best form of honey for the skin. And what else? Then when you have, if you really have oily skin, then you're looking for ingredients like, the powder-based gram flour, chana powder. Besan works very well. Your multani mitti works very well if you have oily skin and you're trying to mattify it a little bit. Now, let's see. There's this question. Please suggest an anti-dandruff tablet. Anti-dandruff tablet is not something you should be taking without a prescription. All right. And it's not even needed in most cases. We do prescribe antifungal oral, but that is only reserved for the most severe cases where the dandruff is not just on the scalp. People are seeing dandruff like flakes on the eyebrows, on this side, near the nose or the sides of the nose. They're seeing it in the beard region. They're seeing dandruff on the chest, on the upper back. In these kind of cases where the shampoos are not working, we may give antifungal medication, oral medication. It's usually given weeks, and you still need to use the anti-dandruff shampoo on a regular basis, but it will keep you fairly acne free for probably 6 months to a year, and then you may need to again meet it. You'll see it's gradually coming back, and maybe you need to do another round of anti-dandruff medication. I think I have one query. Let's see that. Coming about treatment of melasma, I think. Yeah, melasma, it can be pretty challenging, all right? And the thing with melasma is there's no permanent fix. If you can accept that there's no permanent fix, sometimes it makes it a bit easier. Don't go doctor to doctor, repeatedly changing doctors, expecting someone to get rid of it. The sun makes it bad, and that sun is the only thing that you can control a little bit by using a good sunscreen and avoiding unnecessary sun exposure. But it's also hereditary and hormones. Stress can make it bad. Lack of sleep can make it bad. But it's generally between hereditary, hormones, and sun. And that is why we cannot change hereditary and hormones. For women, sometimes by the time they cross menopause, their melasma may clear up completely because the body is no longer producing that much estrogen. If you have melasma, don't take birth control pills. They're going to make it worse. And where a sunscreen alone is not skin lightening creams, of course, always to be prescribed by a dermatologist. Like hydroquinone, for instance, which should not be used on the entire face, which should not be used for more than 4 to 6 months, depending on your original skin color. And for those people where skin lightening creams alone don't work, there are oral medications that can help. Usually with melasma, the more treatments we combine, the better results you start getting. So if we combine the sunscreen with oral antioxidants, a stubborn melasma may require chemical peels as well. Q-switch NDR glaze, a lot of people say that I've done everything. I've done the creams, I've done the peels. I'm coming to you because you have lasers for it. Lasers in melasma is still very controversial. We don't do it in every case. And, if it is stable melasma, lighter or darker, and it's been that way for years, we could attempt laser in it. A lot of people whom we meet have unstable melasma. That is, you go out in the sun even for half an hour and it gets really dark. And if you completely avoid the sun for a few weeks, it looks a little lighter. In unstable melasma, we don't irritate it with laser. Laser ultimately is also a form of radiation, and a melasma is very sensitive to radiation. So it is a work in progress. It is something that requires many years of, melasma. It cannot be a quick fix. All right. I see the query about PRP treatments. Now, let's see. I believe in PRP. Again, dermatologist to dermatologist opinions will vary, and some people believe PRP works better on skin, and some people feel PRP works better on hair. Personally, I believe for skin, nothing works as well as lasers. All right, and those who cannot invest in laser because PRP, there's less investment in it, so they tend to promote PRP very aggressively. But I do for hair. PRP can control hair fall. When the fall is faster than you can control it just with medication, a PRP can get it under control a little faster. In terms of balding, it is not a guarantee. It works well for some people. Probably it works a little better for women than men. It will require multiple sessions. You will still have to take your oral medications. You will still have to take your topical medications to apply to you. If you have a bad case of balding, a PRP is probably not for you. The gold standard treatment is hair transplantation. Of course, you need to go to a person who's very experienced in it. Experience and real skill makes a big difference in success rate of hair transplantation. The more hair transplantation surgeries your doctor has done, the better he will be. There are a lot of dermatologists who are really good at hair transplantation as well. But PRP has its limitations. It's a non-surgical technique. Really nothing is expected to go wrong. We're using the plasma from your own blood, so you're not any allergic reactions or any side effects. But it is generally a little painful treatment, a little expensive treatment, and it's not a permanent fix in many cases. So you need to understand the pros and cons very well before you take a call on that. All right. Now, let's see. Do we have any other queries? Nighttime skincare routine. Nighttime skincare routine. Okay, a lot of the serums are usually safe for use in nighttime. I think one of the few stuff which is daytime is probably hyaluronic acid and vitamin C. So cleansing. If you're in jobs that require you to use makeup, try not to use makeup for more than 8 or 9 hours in a day. Cleanse very thoroughly. You can use, if you have dry skin, you can use oil-based cleanser. If you have acne-prone skin, it is better to stay away from that. Once you thoroughly cleansed your skin, after using a makeup remover, you still need to wash your face with the right kind of cleanser. If in doubt, you check with your dermatologist that what's the right cleanser for my face. Once you towel dry and pat dry, don't be rough on your skin. Assuming that you're someone 30 or above, you'll need first for something around your eyes. The skin around your eyes will age fastest because it's very thin skin. It's always our age which will reveal our eyes which will reveal our age first, and eyes usually look more tired. The rest of your face may be bright, but your eyes will give you away if you're feeling tired, if you're feeling low. So use our under eye cream first. Use your serum for the rest of your face. Give it a few minutes to absorb into your skin, and serums usually don't contain moisturizers, and or it's not sufficient moisturizing. So then you need to follow it up with a moisturizer. I prefer to keep it simple, although some people will complain that even this is too complicated. But I say this because there's a lot of this fads with Korean skincare routine of using 10 steps, and you have the 3 steps. I still feel the less you do sometimes, the more it is. And creams are not going to fix every single problem in your face. So sometimes you need a doctor to help you out. Sometimes you need procedural intervention. You may need chemical peels. You may need laser treatments. You may need oral medications. You may need to get yourself tested for nutrition, for hormonal issues. So, but if you basic skincare routine, I think a good cleanser, makeup remover followed by a cleanser, once in 3 or 4 days a scrub, under eye cream, serum, and moisturizer. That should be good. All right. So moisturizer, already gone through the fragrance free and the paraben free, but for dry skin or skin, if you're looking for, if you're aging ingredients like hyaluronic acid or coenzyme Q10, they work very well for that kind of a skin. All right. Now, let's see. I think we are pretty much coming of the queries that I'm getting. So my website is www.drsunaina.com. So you can go through that. There's a lot of information. There are a lot of blogs on it. You can find at the blog segment because we cannot go through each and every query that's coming in during a program like that. So under the blogs, you'll see a lot of information on skin, on hair, on what choose the right hair color. So you can go through that, and it covers everywhere from pediatric dermatology to women's dermatology to geriatric dermatology. I have a Facebook page called Your Family Dermatologist, and almost every query I've gotten over the years from patients, because when people come even to consult for something like when they come to a doctor to discuss everything from their scalp to their toenails. So the Facebook page will also give you a lot of information on all the queries that I've missed out today. And with that, I'd like to thank everyone that on a Sunday. And it was great speaking to you. It was really nice addressing your queries. I hope you found it useful and enjoy the rest of it. Bye bye.